It is so logical that the UN would go down there and set up a place to process people, to look for, refugees, where they should go. Why wasn't this done before?
Yeah, before they have to travel through an entire country, which is actually a fairly long country. But, I mean, isn't it a relief? I mean, aside from sending the military to our border, aside from setting up the refugee camps on their border, meaning Mexico's southern border, which makes a lot of sense, I mean, isn't it a great relief that he also said, we're going to stop funding all the countries who aren't helping. We give hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign aid every year to countries around the world, right? Obama gave $150 billion to Iran, a country that absolutely hates our guts, and look what we get for it, right? We give so much foreign aid to countries all around the world. We give, millions and millions of dollars to Guatemala and Honduras and all these countries. He says, you know what? I'm going to stop giving you foreign aid if you don't take care of this problem. This isn't an America problem. This is a you problem. You take care of your own problem. Make sure that this doesn't show up on our southern border. And
people would say that's heartless.
It's not heartless. It's not heartless at all. I mean, you have to protect the country. You have to protect the border. There was just an article that came out that they found over 100 ISIS members in one of these countries. So, I mean, those people could clearly be coming up through the border as well. It's not heartless. I mean, we have a country. You have to come into this country legally. And, guys, I'm the product of immigration. People always say you're anti-immigrant, you're anti-this. I mean, they've thrown that at us since 2016. My mom wasn't born in the United States. My father's current wife wasn't born in the U.S. But the difference is they came into this country legally. They got on the list. They did everything right. They learned the language. They assimilated. They took the test. They did everything that you need to do. You can't just have 4,000 people walk into a country. And those countries need to control their own populations.
Well, we found out that there's a new study done by a Yale MIT researcher that estimates there are 22 million illegal immigrants in this country, which is roughly double what the stated number is. But I think that what is going on with Mexico and working with the United Nations, again, it takes it whacks at that kind of narrative from the deranged liberal left that President Trump hates Mexico. And it speaks to what has been going on with Mexico. We've increased the credit line available to Mexico, upping it to $9 billion. And what happened with the renegotiation of NAFTA. The first portion of that is going to lift workers in that country. It's going to lift wages for auto workers in Mexico. And that piece got done before even Canada. So what is happening with our southern neighbor is pretty incredible in terms of how this relationship we have.
And it's not the narrative that the Democrats want. I mean, the Democrats ran on this, notion that, Trump, you're anti-Hispanic, you're anti-this, you're anti-that.
Racist.
And racist and everything else. Any word that you could throw out there, they ran on it. Our relationship with Mexico has never been better. You see that when the president of the country comes out and says what he did yesterday. You see that by their actions. You see that in that they were the first people willing to sit there and renegotiate NAFTA. Their relationship is incredible now, and it's a great testament to actually having
Can we go back to the whole, it's a heartless thing? Because I think one of the best things that we can do is empower the Mexican government to take care of themselves and to be that buffer from Central America. I mean, Central America, even more so than Mexico, is the challenge where you have gangs, where you have human rights issues, where you have drug
they want to get out of.
And the more that we can actually partner with the United Nations and the government of Mexico, that's not heartless. That actually helps not only the United States, but Mexico and those that are trying to be migrants and, find a way out from the challenging circumstances that they're in. So to me, I think the best thing we can do for ourselves and for those individuals is to work with the Mexican government and the United Nations to find a way to protect those individuals and give them a safe harbor before they make their way here.
But you also have to take into account that you have to turn the faucet off in these countries, because what is heartless is sending your child alone through Mexico to be paired up with a smuggler or someone who's claiming to be their parent.
But you have to answer the question why they do that.
There have been multiple cases and multiple stories since the whole outrage over the child minor crisis showing that the parent of the little girl or the little boy that was brought from Honduras or Guatemala was being sexually abused and molested by the parent who had no DNA DNA connection to the kid. And the problem is that according to U.S. law, and this is a congressional issue, the president is doing everything in his power through the executive branch, doing everything that he can, telling Mexico to help us, telling the Central American countries to help us, bolstering the border. Congress right now allows essentially for Central Americans who come to America with a child to get free rein and to come into the country. Our immigration laws do not apply to Central Americans who cross the border or claim asylum with children as a result of the way that the law is written right now. And so it's up to Congress, which the president's been pointing out, and Democrats to decide, do you want children to be abused as they're coming up as migrants through this process? And by the way, why is it that Mexican citizens are subject to different laws than citizens of Central American countries?
Well, I just want to ask Eric, because you brought up a great point about our relationship with Mexico economically. And I have to think that there was some connection. You know, people don't see the connection between the tariffs and the trade wars and the idea that we're trying to renegotiate trade deals and then these other issues. I mean, I have to think that embedded somewhere in the USMCA was also conversation about how are we going to deal with this other issue. What's your perspective? I mean, are those talks intermingled?
And probably overall relationship, meaning people actually sitting down, talking, and coming up with something that actually works for everybody. And think about the relationship that the U.S. and Mexico could have, and I think now is having, right? You have countries like China, right, who've taken all of our jobs, they've produced absolutely everything, and they're halfway across the world. Look at where Mexico is positioned. I mean, Mexico has such an incredible opportunity in so many ways. I mean, they are our neighbor, right? No different than Canada. That is what NAFTA used to be. We should be just absolutely tied at the hip. Not just social issues, but business issues, militarily, security, etc. I mean, this is our hemisphere.
And to your point, I mean, President Trump is actually closer in his immigration policy standpoints to the Mexican government than the left is to the Mexican government. Mexico doesn't want Central Americans illegally immigrating to their country either, which is before they just let them go through and enter the United States. Now President Trump is engaging the Mexican government, engaging the ambassador and saying, we need your help to stop this problem, and I know that you understand it because you don't let these people stay in your country illegal either.
Not all Democrats are for open borders, just FYI.
But I want to bring up
These
this
ones
issue.
on Capitol Hill are.
So when the president talks about immigration and what's going on in Mexico, that speaks directly to his base. However, it's a midterm election season, and it highlights, to your point, Katie, what Congress has not gotten done for the Trump voter in terms of fully funding the wall, in terms of putting financial restrictions on sanctuary cities. That's a fight yet to come. The president has said he's going to veto it if it doesn't have it. He's willing to shut the government down after the midterm's over. So it kind of highlights something that all these people running for election haven't stepped up to
And the Democrats have been silent on it. It's amazing, right? 2 months ago, all they talked about sanctuary cities, they talked about immigration.
Abolishing ICE.
Abolishing ICE. They will not mention those three topics now. It's amazing. Literally, somebody, Schumer called them up and said, hey, guess what? Let's not use the sanctuary city word anymore. Let's not use the ICE word anymore because you know what? Those issues do not play well in America.
It's true, we haven't heard abolish ICE in a while.